morning. I'm Carol Huchingson, the recovery coordinator. When I sat down to prepare for the recovery report today, I started thinking, maybe there isn't that much to talk about, but there always is. There's always a lot going on in recovery. So I'll catch you up on things that have happened since I talked to you 2 weeks ago. On February 2nd, we held the After the Fire event, which was basically a resource fair about rebuilding. We had 35 participating agencies and over 185 members of the public that strolled through. We did a little exit interview with people as they left about what we might have done better, what we should have offered that we didn't. All the feedback was very good, and so we're really pleased that we hosted that event with the support of Cal OES and FEMA. Our task force meeting followed immediately after that event in the same venue, also on February 2nd. And in addition to the regular report outs at the task force meeting, we had a couple of special reports. Corinne Woodard of the USDA talked about the special programs they're offering and the resources that they can offer folks in the community, particularly those with agricultural interests and livestock, etc. Pete Johnson is a local representative from the St. Vincent de Paul agency, and he talked about these house-in-a-box units that are being brought in for people when they rebuild and are ready to move into their home. These house-in-a-box contain all of the contents that people need to put a house back together, almost all of the contents. And so he described those units and also talked about the need for storage space to keep them. They're going to bring them in. They're looking for about 10,000 square foot of donated space to store those. As I reported to you last time, we have concluded our efforts to place the mobile laundry unit. And as you know, I've been transparent through all of our recovery efforts, so I gave that same message at the task force meeting. We also put out a press release explaining where we're at with that. We've referred to it all along as a mobile laundry, but the truth is a portable laundry would probably be a better descriptor because it's not self-contained. And getting the infrastructure to it has been challenging from the beginning. County staff worked hard in the early months of the disaster to try and find a location for it. We were not able to do so for a long list of reasons. And so we reached a point where, as we are winding down our donations management efforts, we also wound down our efforts to secure a location for that. So we talked with your board about that 2 Tuesdays ago. We also discussed that at the task force meeting with the intent of opening it up to the community to see if members of the public might pose solutions. We've been very successful at task force meetings finding those kinds of solutions from time to time, and one great example was that I needed space to meet in the burn area. We put that need out there, and sure enough, somebody found me a location to meet with survivors there. But at this particular discussion, no solutions in the burn area were forthcoming. The community did not come up with a suggestion for where the mobile laundry could be placed and who might assume responsibility for it. And since then, there have been some negative social media postings. In fact, a letter was written that some of your board may have received. The letter was written by the man that developed the mobile laundry. And I want to backtrack and tell you that we made a point of thanking him for his intent in creating this unit. He was present at the task force meeting. We encouraged him to speak at the meeting. He opted not to do so. And since then, there have been postings in social media. A couple of things that were suggested that are in error. First of all, it was suggested that the county is mad at CAL FIRE over the mobile laundry. At one point, CAL FIRE said, yes, you could hook it up here, but we would still need liability. We would still need volunteers and supervision of such. We're good with that if someone else wants to handle those details. CAL FIRE is our partner. There's no bad blood between us and CAL FIRE, but there was no other entity forthcoming to solve those needs. Another piece of misinfo was that the board voted down the mobile laundry, and that isn't correct either. I take responsibility for that decision as your recovery coordinator because it's the time in the evolution of this disaster to move forward with long-term recovery efforts, rebuilding, and the like. There's also been considerable discussion past and more recently about coming up with some kind of a voucher system where people could get a voucher they could go use at the local laundromat. The local laundromat, by the way, is only operating at 50 to 60% capacity, so it has plenty of room to serve people that need to do laundry there. But even that idea seems to have fizzled out. And I spoke with a representative from TLC about it late last week and asked, is there any plan to get that going? And the response was no, there is no plan to create a voucher system. They have a very limited amount of funding that they can use for rebuilding. The TLC is poised, with all the agencies involved in it, to assist in rebuilding for people that did not have insurance. There's a couple hundred of those, and they only have a couple $100,000 to support rebuilding for those folks. So they just can't see at this point setting aside a few $1,000s to assist with the cost of doing weekly laundry. Donations management continues to wind down, emphasis shifting in all areas to rebuilding. And so at the warehouse, the report is that for quite some time now, it's essentially the same 10 to 15 people that are showing up there almost daily. They pick through and take only new items. And so in light of that, in light of the limited amount of new traffic, we have tentatively scheduled for a yard sale, quote unquote, to take place at the warehouse this Saturday. Watch for details. It will be announced in the media. And of course, any and all proceeds would go to survivors. Donation funds apart from the county, essentially the same story as what I'm giving you here about the need to focus on long-term efforts rebuilding. The same is true for Redwood Credit Union. Senator McGuire hosted a meeting on Friday evening where various stakeholders were brought in to talk about priorities for spending the remaining donation funds. There's about $500,000 in funds that are still needing to, the use of them is needing to be determined. And so there are a number of ideas discussed. And just a little update on what the Redwood Credit Union Santa Rosa Press Democrat Fund has done so far. They collected over $2.5 million. $75,000 for students, teachers, and school employees who lost homes. $525,000 supported 350 Lake County residents who lost homes. $40,000 to first responders who lost homes. $15,000 for swiftwater training that was expected to be needed in the El Nino year rescues in swiftwater. $100,000 for fire victims to build paddocks to keep large animals and livestock safe. And a little over $100 million to be dispersed soon, again, to people who lost a primary residence in the fire. And then that remaining $500,000, that was the topic of discussion Friday night. The meeting concluded with Senator McGuire taking all of the input and stating that we would all get back together soon. MHUs, manufactured home units, are about to restart. The power issues at Clear Lake Resort, FEMA tells us, are going to be resolved soon. And in as short a time as about 2 weeks, they should have them ready to be lived in. And so we expect a final wave of survivors to move there to the manufactured home units. About 15 units are needed to be put in place there. And the majority of those folks are presently residing at Canocti. So we probably are going to see a change in the demographics at Canocti soon. The telephone survey has been revamped and is restarting today. The telephone survey is the brainchild of the task force, and it's all about the information that we need to have the infrastructure in place for rebuilding. So we're encouraging the public to participate in that. If you are someone that lost your primary residence, there are 2 ways to participate in the survey. First of all, you may have already gotten an email about it. If you did not, you can go to LakeCountyRecovers.com and access the survey, or you can call 707-533-9271 to complete it. It'll only take about 10 minutes, and it's all about the kinds of information we need to prepare for rebuilding. I want to acknowledge Kathy Saderlund, our finance chief and auditor, for the incredible job she did last week hosting Cal OES and FEMA staff here. We spent considerable time, Kathy in particular, and a number of the other department heads, working with Cal OES and FEMA to gather the details they needed for these public works projects that are going to be funded in the future. There's about $30,000 worth of those projects, and we were under a tight deadline. Kathy did a stellar job. And that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. I should also say that the next task force meeting will be March 1st. We have converted now to monthly meetings for the task force, and I'll continue to report to you on first and third Tuesdays as well. We wanted to provide plenty of opportunities for public to have input or ask questions about recovery, and so there will still be 3 opportunities a month for that, here twice, and the task force meeting once a month as well. At the upcoming March 1st task force meeting, it's going to be at 6 p.m. on Cobb at a location we're confirming. And we're going to have a special topic at that meeting. We've invited representatives from all of the water systems in the Bern area to talk about the status of their systems. Sorry if I talked too long.
Yeah, just a question about the warehouse. Is that the location out at the airport?
At the Workrite?
Yeah, the
yes.
Workrite.
Yes.
I was out picking up garbage from people too lazy to take it to the dump site. They leave it on the side of the road this weekend, and I was talking to a lot of AmeriCorps folks who are working out there apparently. Wonderful group of kids that volunteer at the warehouse, and they also volunteer on the weekends to pick up this garbage in the field. I just think it's an amazing thing for those people. And they were saying that this Saturday they could use public help. Is that correct?
They actually put out a press release of their own. They need to involve volunteers apart from our recovery effort, and so Jill, did you catch that press release that AmeriCorps put out? It's really their own effort, so I better not to speak to it, but we could probably find that information and ask them to repost it or put it in the newspaper again. Yeah,
they seem to think that some help would be needed. They have about 10 AmeriCorps, and they'd love to double that staff at least in order to get some good work done.
Something came out in the media just last week about that, and there's just been so much I can't remember the details.
And I saw an email from Lori Thornton about that too. I think it was we were CC'd on that press release. I think. Yeah, we'll follow up with that. Yeah. Is that it? Anything else from the board? Any members of the public have anything? No. Okay. I'll bring it back.
Thank you.
There's no action required. Thank you, Carol. Okay, so.